Fedrigo. Those are the four leaders, but Paul, they've gone absolutely nowhere. They've been out front since the 10th kilometre and they're going nowhere.
Well, they're pretty much locked in. They got themselves up to about 1 minute and 10 seconds, but if you look at the front end of the main field, I think this is, as we said earlier, Phil, one of the days when a lot of teams feel is their last chance of winning a stage here at the Tour de France. Looking just down here at the weather conditions, it really has been a very tough day. In fact, at the moment, it's 75 degrees Celsius out on the road. But, Phil, there's a reflected heat on the road at a couple of places out on the course of 102 degrees Fahrenheit. And, in fact, the tar is starting to melt. And there are one or two places they're actually spraying the roads with water.
Well, that's interesting. It is very sultry out there. And funny enough, driving to the start this morning, the finish rather this morning, there was a little bit of rain, ever so slight, but it could happen. And the riders certainly won't want that now. They don't want any more hazards coming their way until tomorrow, when the biggest hazard will be the individual time trial for sure. Well, these four riders, Igor Martinez, remember, he was in the escape and got beaten by Simon Gerrans at the top of Prato Nervoso in Italy before we had our second rest day. He came off the podium in tears. He thought he'd done a deal with Simon Gerrans to keep Gerrans in the lead and not attack him. Gerrans apparently promised he wouldn't sprint. Well, we don't know whether Gerrans actually said that. We're only taking Igor's word on that one.
A lot of apparent people tipped this man to win the stage this afternoon. Alice say he's looked for the breakaway. He got himself into the breakaway, Phil, but unfortunately I have a feeling they're very rapidly going to get caught and pull back into the fold.
Well, the l'Allier River here, which runs as a tributary off the longest river in France, the Loire. More beauty on the way. We'll take our first break. 2 days to go to Paris. Is the catch of the four leaders here. They have been in the lead for 86 kilometres, and they have just, on leaving Vichy and Charmey, been put back in their place.
Well, as soon as the junction was made, a rule in the handbook says go for the counter move straight over the top, and that's exactly what Pipo Pozzato did. But Stefan Schumacher, Phil, was not having any of that at all, and he nailed him back very quickly into the main field.
Well, I reckon that was the tactic, all right. They've chased that. They never let that breakaway go, but it was really hard work. It was over 50 miles of chase to bridge a 45-second gap, more or less there. They've done it now, though, and they're hampered a little bit by a fairly strong head to crosswind, and that'll stay the way all day today as they dodge the gendarme in the middle of the road. But as expected, Paul, as so often happens, once the break is back, they all go a-hunting again.
Well, you see, the strange thing about the sport of professional cycling is once you've got a breakaway off the front end of the field, it tends to calm down the spirits of the riders in the main field. Now, all of a sudden, that they pull back that leading group of four riders, everybody believes once again there's chance to break the elastic. And this is Sylvain Chavanel, chased by Jaroslav Popovic.
Yes, trying to just break the elastic again. I saw Martin Mascant of the Gourmet Chipotle team on the back. He's had a tough tour. He's only a young lad. It might be a bit much for him this year, but he's getting himself to Paris. He was fourth in his first big classic attempt in Paris-Roubaix, and we didn't hear much of him after that until he came to the start line here. Interesting to see this move by Popovic.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why, unless he's been given the freedom, because it's one of the last chances he's got to win a stage here this afternoon. It could well be that the team has said, well, we don't need to look after Cadel Evans this afternoon. He can sit in the main field because Team CSC are going to do all of the pacemaking. So let's see if we can get ourselves a stage victory. Now, that is rather impressive.
Yeah,
normally it would be a maypole, but it's the wheels of a bicycle.
Well, this has been done by the local people of the town of Saint-Remy-en-Rollat. They have a lovely church in there, by the way, which dates back to the early 19th century. But that is yet another example of the brilliance of these people here in France when they do all of this artistry. They come up with something different every year. I think there is a broken spoke in that front wheel, though, Paul.
Well, this looks like a little move again coming from Agri-Toubel. Chase taken up there immediately, as you can see, by Team Rabobank on the front end of the main field. Agri-Toubel have had a fair amount of success out of the Tour de France this year, although I think probably a little saddened yesterday, Phil, by the third place finish by their man Romain Felu.
Oh, and just remind me to tell you about poor Damiano Cunego. We saw him race in yesterday, and he really did race all the way to the line to avoid being eliminated. Well, he went to the doctors after he finished, and the doctors advised him to pull out. So he hasn't started today. but he also has left this race with his head held high because he rode the whole stage injured yesterday and made sure he wasn't eliminated.
Well, just to finish off the story on Damiano Cunego, by the way, Phil, he actually had a number of stitches placed into his chin last night by the race doctor. The main field is going very fast, but I don't think fast enough.
Well, it's going to be a nail-biting finish. We've seen them caught. Remember the finish down in, I can't remember the stage town at the moment, but they caught right on the line at the French champion, Nicolas Vaugondy, and had the race been 2 seconds shorter, he would have won that day, but they caught him. And so now we're going to have to look at whether this can happen here today. Are these guys going to stay away? That was the second stage, I think, over in Brittany here, so it must have been up in Plumelach or Saint-Brieuc. 2:42, 5.6 kilometres to go. Now there's the upside-down world of Fabian Cancellara, who cancelled out his superstitions by wearing 13 upsides. Gets victory for the first Tour de France stage, and it's not theirs yet, but we're still waiting for the peloton to get under 5 kilometres to go, and these boys are about to see 4. Surely that's enough, despite the chase now being enacted. And the thing is, we are, as Paul says, in the streets of Montluçon now. This is a big crossing of the city. I don't think it's a city, it's a large town, a very large town, before we get out to where the finishing line is on the other side. So it's still 4 kilometres to go, and the peloton have not hit 5 yet. So this is going to be a very, very difficult finish now. One of these is going to dream of victory. As we look at the clock, 3.8 kilometres for the leaders. The peloton, Paul, and here they come, are probably just about to see 5 kilometres to go. They are going to have to really lift the ante now.
A little bit late for Crédit Agricole moving up on the right-hand side there. They've still got to sprint because, after all, Phil, this is categorised as a flat stage. There's 35 points for the first rider to cross the finish line, and there are points for the first 25 riders to finish. So even though we're going to be sprinting in the main field, Phil, for third place, Oscar Ferreira, Eric Zabel and Thor Hushovd still have to sprint it out. They still have to try and get themselves lots of points, even all the way up to Paris. The two leaders, Phil, at 5 kilometres to go for the main field, are going to survive.
They've got to. At 2:18, I think the gap was officially under that banner. It's already down to 2:17, but they've got a lead of almost 2 kilometres. It has worked, and what a tremendous ride it has been to at last 2 riders to get away from the field and hold them off. 2 French riders at that, but neither has won a stage, and it looks as though Chavanel is going to have to try and drag Roy to the finish. But one of them, and only one, can win the day.
That's a tough thing. We talked about it yesterday, Phil, a 2-man breakaway, and you never know how the sprint is going to go. Logistically and statistically, the strongest man should be Sylvain Chavanel. He's won 6 races so far this season, and all of them in dominant style. But when it's a 2-man breakaway, if you make a mistake in the last 150 metres, you blow the chance of a lifetime. And Sylvain Chavanel, he's been so close before. You remember when he was away with Chris Horner, the American rider, and they got caught inside the last 200 metres. Ouch, I tell you what, this little railway bridge here, Phil, is looking like a mountain for these 2 men.
Yes, as we climb over this bridge, we'll start to get a little bit easier towards the finish. We've just skirted round the sides of the Cher River here, which is another one of these marvellous rivers of France. And these 2 riders must feel quite lonely out there just now. Suddenly the crowd have gone, but they're waiting down in the dip there as they align themselves up towards the 2-kilometre banner. And now they know they're going to win. What will their tactics be?
Well, Chavanel, I think, will keep going until the last possible moment. Then I think once he gets to around about 500 metres to go, he will probably force Jérémy Roy to come to the front. I would think the Frenchman in the red shorts there would like to start the sprint out of the slipstream of the younger Frenchman. The younger man with him is a little bit more inexperienced. Chavanel has won races in Belgium, he's won races in Italy. He knows how to win from a situation like this, but he will not want to make a mistake.
Well, he's been on the attack since the Tour began. Remember, he was an early leader in the King of the Mountains on this race as well. He's not afraid of terrain, he's just looking for glory. Here comes the charge here. It looks as though the big workhorses of Team Columbia and Quickstep have gone too fast for the sprinters right now. A state of panic back there, but a chance to grab third place at 3 kilometres to go.
This is the winner of yesterday's stage off the front end of the main field, Marcus Burkhardt, but he's looking for 2 minutes on these 2 riders. Now they're slowing down a fraction. You can see the man at the front, so Sylvain Chavanel is thinking, what am I going to do? Shall I force this young man to the front? I need to really. I want him to start the sprint so I can come out of his slipstream, just as you would in a massive, great Formula One race.
He's looking very casual here, Chavanel. It's almost as if he's inviting Jeremy Roy to just make the move. It slips away slightly to the right here. There's the bridge where we go into the no-people zone. And again, that field has come back together again. A good chance, perhaps. This isn't Gert Stegmans, I don't think, who's trying to get off the front as we get to 1 kilometre to go. They got away after the other group of four had tried and tried and tried for 80 kilometres, never to get out of sight of the field. These two had to go at 85 kilometres from the finish, and they will decide the day.
Chavanel getting it into the right gear. He's got it now into the gear that he wants to start the sprinter, but he's going to start the sprint from first position. Looking over his shoulder, it's almost a repeat of yesterday when two riders are trying to duke it out. This is the cat and mouse tactics. Chavanel is the more powerful rider, but you never know if you get caught out by a quick jump and a quick surprise. It could be everything for Jeremy Roy, but I feel that Chavanel today, Phil, he's got the strength to take this victory. He's looking confident, waiting to see if there's any move. He's making it a long, slow sprint, but once he kicks, I think he's got the advantage.
Well, I'm not so sure whether Jeremy Roy here, he's starting to grip those handlebars tighter. The pace is being lifted. He's being invited to make his move by Chavanel. Chavanel wants to see the move, and then he'll try the kick. Well, he's still playing with Jeremy Roy, but watch out, because that man has a little bit of a kick in those legs. Now he's going for it. He waited until the head came the other way of Chavanel. Look at the face of Jeremy Roy, but I'm not sure he's got the speed there. And Chavanel, the stronger of the two, he gets the first stage win in the Tour de France. Jeremy Roy gets his reward for being aggressive, but that was his 7th win of the season, and without doubt his best of his career.
It's not important now, the time gap. The important thing for Sylvain Chavanel, Phil, was to get himself the victory there. He was in a slightly bigger gear. I was a little concerned when he started to wind it up in the fact that he may well have overestimated the size of the gear, but once he got that big gear rolling, nobody was going to challenge him. In the main field now, the organisation is Milram, and they're looking out for their man, Eric Zabel. Over on the right-hand side, there's a big train coming from Crédit Agricole, and that is Thor Hushovd. Hushovd wants to try and get himself a lot of points here this afternoon, because he wants to see if he can get himself a little bit closer to the green jersey of Oscar Freire.
And now the lead out for the rider in green, but Hushovd is not going to come through as he looks over his shoulder. He comes up now, but where is Freire? Freire is calculating he doesn't need points. He's trying to get out of a mess here. Leonardo Duque has got out there as he comes to the line now. Duque may come and finish this off, the man in red, but I don't know whether he can take on the God of Thunder. The Team Columbia riders and Cholik have gone to the right, and it looks like a final kick here. Columbia can't do much wrong in this race, as they're going to sweep up the board here, and Zabel again will have to play second. I think that's Gerald Cholik who takes the prize. He said if the things were right this morning, he'd have a go. It'll be third there this time, and had it all come together, I wonder if Freire would have made a serious move.
Well, Freire just consistent. Yellow jersey in the group, Phil, nice and safely in exactly the same time as everybody else. As we look at the victory move here by Sylvain Chavanel, there will be no change overall tonight. It'll be exactly the same as it was at the start of today, going into the individual time trial tomorrow.
Well, these boys diced it out again. Another case in 2 days where it's always sad when you finish second. The first Tour de France for Jeremy Roy, and the more experienced time trial champion of France. He's been a road race title holder as well. He gets the victory today, applauds himself, well done, and he's earned that. It's taken him a few years to get it, and he had a few years of being a most aggressive rider in the Tour de France, but now he's got France's 3rd stage win, almost setting a record in. This was the sprint here. Crédit Agricole had it organised. Freire in the lime green there, little bit of argy-bargy on the left of the picture there, and a dodging by the rider in the light green who didn't really get involved in this. Cholik just comes out ahead. Very strong finish. He was the lead out man, don't forget, for Mark Cavendish. If it comes right on Sunday in Paris, he might even get the stage win. There's the situation behind here. Yes, I can imagine the emotion.
Well, he's tried, Phil, on 8 occasions he's been to the Tour de France. He's had a little bit of glory with the lead in the King of the Mountains classification. He has tried so many times to win a stage, and finally he's got it.
And Sylvain Chavanel now follows in the footsteps of Samuel Dumoulin and Cyril Dessel. And there he is on the podium now. as the spoils of victory come out. His first ever Tour de France stage win.
Well, he's had glory in the Tour de France before when he's worn the King of the Mountains jersey on a couple of occasions, but I think, Phil, this is the crowning glory as far as he's concerned. 8 times he's participated in the Tour de France, and finally he's got himself up onto the top step of the podium, and for any bike rider that's an important moment in a career.
It is indeed, and he's going to relish this moment too, and he's worked very, very hard for it. He's never ever a question of him being given a stage. He's fought very hard for this stage win.
And I have to say, Phil, as he's changing teams during the winter season, this is almost a farewell gift to Team Cofidis.
Well, Sylvain Chavanel with the Honda ATV stage results gets in ahead of Jeremy Roy, a fellow Frenchman. Then comes Cholik of Team Columbia, Zabel of Milram, Heinrich Hausler of Gerolsteiner. Gap 1 minute 13 only on the peloton. Duque in 6th, his teammate. Pozzato riding well these last couple of days. He's leaving the team too at the end of the year. He got 7th. Hushoft only 8th. Not sprinting at all well these days, those last few days either. And Oscar Freire wasn't too bothered. He nibbled a few more green jersey points though in 11th there. And Ballana was in the break for miles today and got him absolutely nowhere. Finished there too in 15th. Sebastian Lang at 16th. And David Miller just getting in behind Jaroslav Popovic for the 20th place. Stage 20 of the Tour de France for 19 days and 3,330 kilometres, and we still don't know who is going to win this year's Tour de France. Will we know the answer tonight? We should here in the town of Saint-Amand-Montrond, because this is the final time France. Carlos Sastre lines up for home. 1:7:29 is not even going to be close, I'm sorry to say, for Cadel Evans, because he can amble up the home straight now, because tomorrow he rides to Paris in yellow, and by tradition they won't attack him. In fact, they haven't got enough time even near him to attack him. So Carlos Sastre comes home. His time in the time trial best ever. He thanks everybody. He waves to the crowd. He knows now he's won the Tour de France, and he's won it by around a minute.
Well, that was an unbelievable performance. I want to see him get off his bike right now, Phil, because nobody can believe the performance of this young man. He pulled himself inside out. He looked at the time of Cadel Evans. Evans was never very much more than 25 seconds ahead of this man. He has ridden the time trial of his life. He never, ever in his career has been able to rival Cadel Evans in the individual time trial, and I think Evans today had a very bad day. He just could not take the pressure. Let's not forget, Cadel Evans finished in the top 10 in the individual time trial, but I think to win the Tour de France today, Evans needed to win this time trial.
Well, it's the congratulations time now. The pain is over for Carlos Sastre. I don't think there was anybody except the Spanish and, of course, Team CSC gave him a hope of winning this race in the time trial against Cadel Evans. But on the day, he proved to be the stronger of the two, and he really was riding like a man possessed. He has won the Tour de France for sure now. Tomorrow, though, he has to ride the full distance, and he has to make sure he gets to the Champs-Élysées and keep himself out of trouble. Cadel Evans tonight will, though, be sitting in 2nd place in the Tour de France, and the sensational Bernard Cole will be there in the Tour de France. That's a velodrome down there as we go inside now to see Stefan Schumacher. Salutes the crowd again. 2 wins, both time trials are his, and he hasn't waited for the time trials. We saw so much of him in the mountains as well.
No, he was a phenomenal performer. He was not scared at all of going out on the attack on a number of occasions, and he did say that he was surprised at how strong he was coming into the final week of the Tour de France, and that proved it today, Phil, because he was a strong man in the individual time trial.
Well, it's a shame that Gerolsteiner leave the sponsorship of cycling this year. It's always been advertised, and it hasn't just happened or anything like that. It's just they've done enough for what is a bottled water company, but they have had an incredible Tour de France. And let's leave the question begging now, who will pick them all up? Let's have a look again at the Honda ATV results. Schumacher getting the victory over the world champion by 21 seconds. 61 seconds to Kim Kirk, and again a great time trial from him. Van der Velde lost 1 minute and 5 for 4th place, and the world champion, David Miller there in 5th place at 1:37. 2 Garmin Chipotle boys. Looking further down, we've got George Hincapie, who was always up there, bandages up as he is from his crashes. He got across the line 10th. Disappointment there was Cadel Evans, only 7th at 2 minutes 5 seconds down.
Yes, that was a bad ride by Cadel Evans, and one that he will have to try and analyse later on in the season, because he never really looked comfortable. He never really got the gear going. The great ride, Phil, was done by 12th place finisher Carlos Sastre, 2:34 behind Schumacher, but more importantly, 29. Only 29 seconds behind Cadel Evans, and that was a great performance. Garmin Chipotle right up there in 13th and 14th with Heyerdahl and Danny Pate.
Danny, when he finished, led, of course, and he's finished the day in 14th position. Chris Froome there, this young man, Discovery from Kenya, finishes his heads for his first Tour de France with a high finish, and he finished 16th today. 84 hours and 1 minute, and Cadel Evans is still looking for 1 minute and 5 seconds. Bernard Cole, an incredible ride. He's going to finish this Tour third. Denny Menchoff of Rabobank has come up into fourth. Christian van der Velde of Garmin Chipotle, celebrations tomorrow in Paris, because he's going to finish this Tour de France.
Congratulations, your second time trial win here at the Tour. You've been on the attack the last 3 days. Can you believe you still had so much strength to be able to take another win?
No, I felt this year was the first time I was really constantly in the third week. So normally I had, after 10 days or 2 weeks, I was going down. It was my fourth 3-week race, and yeah, this year I wanted to have the second stage win, and yeah, I was not the first on the line, but I could win this. This is my second time trial, so I'm really happy about this. And I was really confident, because I felt that I had good legs also in the last days. And today the circuit was perfect for me.
A nice circuit out there. Were you getting time checks along the way, and did you realize that you had a really good chance to be able to win along the route?
Yeah, after the second time, when I was 12 seconds back, I was not sure, but I had my rhythm, so I was sure that in the last climb it was not easy, and I knew that there you can make a lot of time, and there will be the decision of the race. And yeah, for me, I think I made everything perfect. I gave 100%, and I had a good rhythm, and so yeah, in the final I didn't see this. You know, after such a long time trial, you look like this, and I didn't know anything after the line, so I asked which place, and then I heard first, and after Cancellara was on the road, I knew that I had a good chance to win.
Well, congratulations on the 2 wins and to making it to Paris.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely superb. We might be, Frankie may have interviewed the next world time trial champion. Who knows? After all, he's beaten Cancellara twice in this year's Tour de France. Anyway, as we continue to look at the man who should win the Tour de France, we'll see him on the podium. Carlos Sastre, he'll feel pretty safe now, Paul. He couldn't have felt safe last night.
Well, I'm sure he didn't feel safe going into the individual time trial. Looking at the statistics, as all of us have done over the last 48 hours since he got that yellow jersey on the slopes of the Alpe d'Huez, but now he must feel a little bit more confident, Phil, with the Champs-Élysées and Paris on the horizon.
But we have seen this year one of the most competitive Tours de France. Now they will get to see Paris. Notre Dame overlooks the Seine. The Arc de Triomphe will overlook the finishing line of this year's Tour de France, because, of course, we finish on the Champs-Élysées. At the beginning of this final stage here, down in Étampes, and by tradition they bring the leaders of the competitions to the front. The yellow jersey now going to Paris on the shoulders of Carlos Sastre at 33 years of age. As the field, 145 of them, roll away. This is a flashback to about 10 minutes ago, that's all. They brought the 4 leaders to the front: Oscar Freire, the polka dot of Bernard Cole, the yellow of Sastre, and the white of Andy Schleck.
It really has been a phenomenal performance and a phenomenal battlefield for all of those men to get the jerseys. But the man who wears the yellow jersey could not have done it without the teammates here around him.
Absolutely, a team with 3 national champions on it, CSC. As we get back up the road, these are live pictures. The flag has just about been pulled in 0 kilometre, and for the first time in 3 weeks, no one is sprinting out of the blocks. In fact, this looks like Carlos Sastre has gone up to Mr. Prudhomme, the race director, and said, "Are you sure it started?"
Well, just to put it into perspective, Phil, nearly always on the final day of the Champs-Élysées, as the riders make their way to the very heart of Paris, the first hour of the race is somewhat of a procession. It's a little bit of fun for everybody to enjoy themselves, to chat amongst the other riders with them in this group, to say, well, we did it. We had good times, we had bad times, and now just a little bit of a truce, an unofficial truce before they get onto the Champs-Elysees, because once they get here, Phil, we always have a great battle.
Oh, absolutely. Has taken a flyer from the line. He seems to want the yellow jersey from day one, and that is an incredible win. The Golden Fleece, the Maillot Jaune for Alejandro Valverde, first leader of the Tour. Up on the outside, is that Hushoff, who's launched an attack? Yes, it is. It's a god of thunder roaring, but the challenge is coming, and this is Cholik who's on his wheel, but Hushoff has taken it on the line. There goes the attack. Dumoulin's not living into the sprint, and Will Frisco is going after him. This is an awful long kilometre for these rides. Come on, William Frisco for Garmin Chipotle. But on the line, Dumoulin gets the win. Frisco gets second. This has been a great ride by Stefan Schumacher. It is going to annihilate the time of the world champion, and I think might lead the way to the best ever victory of his life. Well, this is a super finish by Miller. He's ridden his best time trial for many, many years here, Miller, and he's taken it to the line. Second best time. Stefan Schumacher has not only won the time trial, he's also become the leader of the Tour de France.
Vogondi here could very well have created a massive surprise.
Here comes the rush now, the final efforts here by Cholik as they try to wipe it out. These are desperate moments by the sprinters, and they've all just got to go for it now, as it looks like Ferrer's trying to get to the middle. Cavendish is there, and he's done it. And this is Christian van der Velde for Garmin Chipotle, who has launched an attack here. And there's a crash here. Schumacher's touched the wheel. The yellow jersey is in trouble. Well, this is a proud moment for Kim Kirken of Luxembourg. And this is going to really please, above all, his new American team, Columbia. Well, this is his third Tour de France. He's never looked like winning a stage before. He didn't even finish the last time he rode in 2006. But is this going to be his greatest moment? It's all over. Time doesn't matter to this man. It's the win he wanted. Look at Kim Kirken coming at him behind. The yellow jersey is going for the points for the green jersey as well. But let's give Luis Leon Sanchez his word. That was a great win today. And on the line, Kirken and Schumacher side by side. Cavendish needs to break now as Stegmans gets the perfect lead out. Frere is looking hot. Robbie Hunter coming in the red. Stegmans goes now. Here comes Mark Cavendish. He swings to the left. He kicks. Mark Cavendish so quick over this last distance as Cavendish races towards the line. He gets it. That is unbelievable. He has got his second win of the Tour de France.
Here appears to be the rider from Silence Lotto, Phil, who has gone down.
Well, here it is. It's a bike change, in fact. Now, was it a bike change as a result of? I thought it most certainly was. Look at that. That is the hard way to start your attempt to win the Tour de France in the Pyrenees.
Well, you can see he's seriously ripped up there. His shorts are ripped on the left-hand side. His jersey is ripped on the back, and he's got his arm open quite a fraction. Well, a lot of people have said the problem with Cadel Evans is he will not attack, but he's attacked here right now because he knows exactly what he's got to do. He's chasing Mikel Astroloza, and he's gone right across that gap. And the other guys, Phil, were just looking at him. If you want to win a Tour de France, you've got to ride with courage, you've got to ride with determination, and you have to make a move. This is the move, I think, that Cadel Evans has decided he needs to make.
Well, Cadel Evans here, an emotional moment. He becomes only the 5th Australian to pull on the Maillot Jaune. And it looks as though Kurt Adel Arvidsson is going to lead them out here. Martin Elmager, Balan is a very fast sprinter as he goes on the left of our picture. Moerenhout never got his legs after he came up to the break. Arvidsson is going to hold this, or is he? He's got Elmager coming through. The legs are going on Arvidsson. Well, it's close enough. I'll take the photograph. And now goes Cavendish, goes from the centre. This is a perfect lead out, and this is how he goes. And beat that. He is the fastest man in the world right now, Mark Cavendish. There's nobody even comparing. Mark Cavendish becomes the first British cyclist to ever win 3 stages in a Tour de France. He's done it for the American team, Columbia.
Crash at the back
here. And this is one of the Gerolsteiner riders who's gone down. In fact, this is Sven Kraus. And this must be where it happened. Oh, and look at that bike go up in the middle. My goodness me, that was a prank. His bike's in 2 halves there, completely smashed, and he looks okay. Well, that'll go down as the most sensational crash we've seen on the Tour this year. Dodging and out of our sight because he's so small is Mark Cavendish, and he's boxed in Mark Cavendish. He's going to have to come with Oscar Freire from the centre of the pack. Watch him move to the left. Now he comes. He makes the space. Cavendish goes. The rocket has been launched. Mark Cavendish being challenged by Robbie McEwen. But this is the new Robbie McEwen, and no one can match Mark Cavendish. It's a long way to the line. Make it number 4. Team Colombia are setting the pace, but they haven't got Mark Cavendish in their slipstream, and Oscar Freire in green is a huge danger now. There's a rush from Jimmy Casper on the right of the picture here. A run here, and it's coming from Schumacher right on the line, and it's going to be a battle of the Germans, but Eric Zabel has got himself there again, and Freire is through on the line. The man in green takes.
There's a number of riders gone down here very dramatically around this corner. All it takes is a little bit of grease on the road and they go down. They've gone down on the left-hand side and on the right. There's all kinds of riders down on the ground, and I think Denny Menschov
he's gone down. What did he hit there?
He just slipped on the road. Menschov was making his big move of the day, Phil, and he went down and his chain is off.
And that was simply the grease on the surface of the road. Frank Schleck is being set up by his brother at the front of the race to launch him perhaps for the finishing line. Remember, a second is a blink of the eyelid. That's all it is to steal the yellow jersey. Well, I guess it was always on the cards. Team CSC have ridden brilliantly, and now Cadel Evans will see his yellow jersey pass over to Frank Schleck.
John Lee Augustin, I think, who's gone off the edge of the road. And let's just have a look at this one more time. He's coming round that corner. He came into the corner much too fast, straight over the top of the climb.
Paul, he's gone off on the steepest part of the drop here. His bike has gone way down there. But being from on top of the world, winning the climb, he must have just lost his eye on that corner and has gone through. He looks okay, amazingly, but he's getting back.
Carlos Sastre knows, Phil, that if he wants to get his one chance at a shot at winning the Tour de France here this afternoon, he's got to get time. But he doesn't have to get seconds, he has to get minutes.
Meet the man who wins an Alpe d'Huez and becomes the 7th leader of the Tour de France. Carlos Sastre gets the win. Now they've gone for the line, mano a mano, side by side, but I think Marcus Burkhardt is going to be a little bit too quick here. The man who's helped Cavendish to all of his wins now gets one for himself. Now he's going for it. He waited until the head came the other way of Chavanel. Look at the face of Jeremy Roy, but I'm not sure he's got the speed there. And Chavanel, the stronger of the two, he gets the first stage win in the Tour de France. Cadel Evans, his Tour de France has been all about a yellow jersey. He's worn the yellow jersey, but today I think he is not going to win the Tour de France, but with a bit of luck he is going to finish second for a second year, and that itself is a tremendous thing for anybody to do.
Carlos Sastre this afternoon has ridden, Phil, the time trial of his life, of his career, and he's looking now at the end of this road at a yellow jersey.
So Carlos Sastre comes home, his time in the time trial best ever. He thanks everybody, waves to the crowd. He knows now he's won the Tour de France, and he's won it by around a minute. So he waves there to the commentary box to his Dutch commentators. He gave them such an exciting moment when he won a stage of this race. All of Team CSC are coming home, and they are now, the last man, as always, is the man in the yellow jersey, Carlos Sastre. All 9 of the riders of only 3 teams bringing all 9 home. CSC, Saxo Bank is the big one.
Well, it certainly is. If you're a professional bike rider, you cannot look at this backdrop, Phil, and not get what the French call a chair de poule, chicken skin, because it's so exciting getting yourself down to the Champs-Élysées. You've been through all kinds of purgatory. You've had the high life, the low life, the good times and the bad times, and now you're going to get every last little bit of energy out of your body on these 6-8 laps around here, I should say, of 6.5 kilometres. Still, Team CSC are being given the honour of doing almost a lap of honour, if you like, but very shortly there will be attacks. There will be riders who will feel they can break the stranglehold of the team that's been the #1 team in the Tour de France this year. Arvidsson comes to the front now to relay Stuart O'Grady. Jens Voigt, look at him, just sitting in the back. He's been so calm through this Tour de France. He's done the work that he's had to do on specific occasions for one reason only, and that's to win this Tour, and they've come away with it doing what they started.
Well, they're under the PMU banner, which is the sprint at the 2.5 laps. So they've got 2 full circuits and then the ride up the Champs-Élysées. The next one will come after 5 circuits. Remember, they do 8 laps now. They don't go shooting off into the traffic there underneath and around the Arc de Triomphe. We turn at the top of the Champs-Élysées and start our journey back down the other side. The pace will pick up now. This is where we will see for sure the French riders will want to be noticed. And there's the first French rider launching the attack as we speak. It's going to be that sort of race now. They're going to have to control everybody, and not surprisingly, Nicolas Vaugondy, the champion of France, is starting the pursuit.
Well, it's very important now for everyone to show themselves off. If you've succeeded in getting round this 3-week bike race, you don't want to sit in the anonymity of the main field, Phil. You want to come to the front and show people, I am still in the Tour de France. I've still got the power to get off the front end of the main field, and that tends to just push the speed up a little bit higher all the time as everybody tries to get off the front. This is Stéphane Ogier of Cofidis trying to get himself off the front end of the main field, and it's big Jens Voigt has said, mate, you're coming back to me.
So Stéphane Ogier, who has been a great rider in the Tour de France, he's now getting towards the end of his career. He is now 34 years of age, but this year he has won a big race in Dunkirk. It's a 4-day race. It's actually a week-long race these days, but he was first. It's always referred to as the Dunkirk 4-day. He's now been joined by the champion of France, who's certain to fly the tricolour flag down the Champs-Élysées. Vaugondy now joins him. Others will try to strengthen the move here as they race away on the first lap of the Champs-Élysées.
Well, somebody's tried to get across the gap there. All of a sudden, Phil, there is no white flag or no truce, because everybody is scuttling across the gap here to sample the glory at the front end of a bike race here on the Champs-Élysées. It's a great backdrop and a great place to race if you can get off the front end of the main field.
Well, this looks like it might be Christian Knies who's gone across to him here, or Bjorn Schroeder of Team Milram, but they've started a flurry of activity now as they head down past the commentary boxes again and back out across the Place de la Concorde. It is now going to be action all the way. It looks like it is indeed Schroeder, who Trent Lowe has got across here.
Well, there's another move straight over the top.
Well, one after another now. They've lifted the pace to about 55 kilometres an hour. And you try to get a group that might work together, will have the legs now to lift the speed up and hold it here. Just look at the peloton scrabbling for wheels, as they know now there'll be no respite till this Tour de France ends. 48.5 kilometres still to race as we sweep around the Place de la Concorde, shortly to return right into the situation on the Champs-Élysées. We've nearly completed one lap here, and not surprisingly the French team Bouygues Telecom is now going out on the attack as well.
Well, everybody looking for a little bit of freedom, Phil, on this final stage, but look at the reaction behind. Everyone's all over the place. Surprisingly, though, Thomas Voeckler, the former French national champion, he's at the back end of the main field, as is Johan van Sommer, and the rider in the red and black jersey there. And I wonder if Voeckler has some kind of a mechanical problem.
Well, I wouldn't imagine he'll stay at the back for long, because he is a man who likes to play to the French crowd. He'll come back to the front. See the yellow jersey, he's holding his position at the front. He's not taking part in the attacks, but what he is making sure he's doing is staying out of trouble. Remember now, a fall or a flat tyre could end his victory in the Tour de France, and he's very much aware of that. For that reason, his team will never be far from him.
Well, that's an important point you raised there. I was listening to French radio last night, and they said, oh, well, it's all over and done with. Carlos Sacha has won the Tour de France. It's only a ceremonial parade on the Champs-Élysées. Well, let me tell that French commentator, Phil, that this is no ceremonial parade at 55 kilometres an hour. And yes, Carlos Sacha does have to finish this stage, and he does have to finish in the main field and in the same time as Cadel Evans to make sure that he wins.
Xavier Florencio from the Bouygues Telecom team trying to rip away from the front here on his own at the moment, or is he just trying to fly the flag for France here? Because Bouygues Telecom again have been a very active team in the...
Will have their day, as it seems to me that every man in this main field is looking for the breakaway.
Well, the Côte d'Agricole rider looking for some help. There was Christophe Lemaivel. He's been in our cameras as well, a lot in the mountains, had a great tour. Simon Gerrans, his Australian teammate, won a stage of the race, the first day in the Alps, a great stage to choose to win, as he went across a gap and joined the four leaders on his own, and then he won at the top of the at the top of the Italian finish town.
Prato
Nervoso. I couldn't think for the moment. Looking down at the peloton then as they continue now to try and control the peloton. The sprinters obviously want to sprint, but they're going to have to withstand an awful lot of attacks, as they always do here on the Champs-Élysées.
Well, it's under control once again of Team CSC. Stewie O'Grady from Adelaide, South Australia, said, I've had enough of all these guys trying to leap off the front end of the main field. Have a little bit of this pain from me, my mate. He's got to, behind him, he's got Jens Voigt ready to take over the pacemaking. Never too far away, Fabian Cancellara. This is a fabulous team, Phil. Team CSC Saxo Bank. They've dominated this race. They've dictated this race, and they've taken it by the horns whenever they've wanted to, and that's what they're doing once again here on the street of the Champs-Élysées.
This is the attack at 3.2 kilometers to go, and they've got to chase him down straight away.
Isn't this funny? Team Quickstep are the team chasing him down, and where is Team Quickstep? But this is, Phil, not about friendship. This is about trying to win a stage of the Tour de France. Quickstep have not won anything out of the Tour de France this year, and they will give everything to try and get Chavanel. He hasn't got much of an advantage, but if they break now, he will go away to get the victory. But look at all the sprinters queuing up behind. Everybody wants the glory on this final day.
Carlos Sastre just won the Tour de France. We are inside 3 kilometers to go. If he falls now or gets a flat tyre, he will be given the same time as all of those cyclists. He can't be beaten now as he races the last 2.5 kilometers for home. All that remains to find out is, can he hold off the peloton? They're working hard.
He's scrambling. This is at the back end of the main field. This is a problem here for Jens Voigt. He snapped his seat. His seat has disappeared, but it doesn't matter for Jens Voigt right now.
At least he'll also get the same time. Same rule applies across the board. So Jens Voigt is not all bad luck, but he can't take part in the finish. Here comes the drive up to Sylvain Chavanel, who finally this year got his stage win in the Tour de France, but it won't be today.
Right on the front now is Garmin Chipotle. 5th position is the black and white jersey of the Kiwi national champion Julian Dean. David Miller is up there into 2nd place. Dean goes around there right on the shoulders of Oscar Freire, and in the other darker green shorts there, of course, big Thor Hushovd is looking for the win. And of course, Phil, let's not forget, he's won right here before.
Who are we going to see come out of the tunnel first as they race for the last time under that Ferris wheel? Garmin Chipotle it is. At one stage in the opening week for a while, they were the best team in this race. In the black there is Julian Dean. He's about 8 men down. He is going to try and finish this off for Garmin Chipotle, who are bringing all except one of their riders home. And this is Miller now.
Miller's got 1, 2, 3 riders. The 3rd Quick-Step rider is Gert Stegemann. He's better known as the lead-out man for Tom Bonen, but queuing up behind Phil there. Leonardo team copied it. Stefan Schumacher's not far away there for Thor Hushovd as well in the green.
Well, they're into the last 800 metres. This is for big Gert Stegmans, the lead-out, the man who won in Ghent last year when he beat Tom Bonen and his teammates as they race across the Champs-Élysées and into the Champs-Élysées for the final time. It's the right flip, but as we've told you all along, if you go too soon, you will not win at the Tour de France stage because it's a long way up to the line.
It's an awful long way. Still, Stegmans is in 2nd position. He's got Julian Dean moving up to wait. If you've got to kick now.
Look at this. Is this going to be the perfect end for Quickstep? It's the best chance for Stegmans. But look at Gerhard Čolek is coming. And on the outside is Oscar Freire at the green points. Čolek is closing so fast. Oh, and he's lost it on the line. But a great, great victory for Gert Stegmans. He has just redeemed the credibility of Quickstep. And let's watch for the man in the middle. Is he going to give us away? Because Carlos Sastre has won the Tour de France. He searches for Stuart O'Grady because he owes an awful lot to that Australian.
As Carlos Sastre has got the victory. Let's have a look at that sprint victory one more time. We've said that this was a hard man sprint finish. He was led out admirably there. Julian Dean right in his wheel. The big acceleration did come from Gerhard. The man who normally leads out Tom Bonen there has got the incredible gap.
Oh, yeah.
He's got time to look back over his shoulder there to say, right guys, you want to get the victory here this afternoon? Sorry, you'll have to try again next year. Oscar Freire up there in 3rd. Robbie McEwen, I think, was up there for 4th.
Well, I'll tell you what, he also has got to thank David Miller for a brilliant lead out down that back straight. But there is the family of Carlos Sastre. He's just telling his children, your dad just won the Tour de France. Well, this is how it all happened. The face of Gert Stegmans. This was a very important victory. His team has done absolutely nothing in this Tour de France. He's redeemed himself here, and a big sigh of relief.
And let's not forget, he leaves Team Quick-Step next year, Phil, to sign up for that very big new Russian squad, which is going to take over from Team Tinkoff. A great acceleration there coming from Cholik, but he could do nothing to outwit Gert Stegmans. You know, this is a special sprint here on the Champs-Élysées. You've got to get it to absolute perfection, but you've also got to have that big V8 turbo engine going and whistling, especially when you kick in the final few hundred meters.
There's a rider who won the Tour de France. He came so good in the mountains. He won at Alpe d'Huez. He's brought a memory to us that if you win at Alpe d'Huez and pull on the yellow jersey, history dictates you win the Tour de France in Paris. He's proved the point once again. As Carlos Sastre can enjoy himself tonight, so can this team, not just Gert Stegmans, because they've got himself a stage win. For Gert here, it is his 7th win of the year, and for sure his stage result. Stegmans wins ahead of Gerard Cholik. Oscar Freire getting third, even more points for that green jersey. He's run away with it in the end. McEwen still not sprinting as well as ever. He's only 4th for Robbie. He's won here twice. Tour Hushoff Paul, he's won here, drops back to 5th.
Yeah, but that was a great sprint on the run into the finish. I thought for a moment Julian Dean was going to get it, Phil, but he faded into 6th place. And Stefan Schumacher topping off a very good Tour de France for him in 7th, just ahead of his own teammate there, Robert Forster, in 8th. And rounding up the top 10, Robbie Hunter of South Africa, again ahead of the old man of the race, Eric Zabel, in 11th.
Well, that's the top 15 with Valverde. A bit further down, Jeffrey Lecatre 16th, Stephen de Jong 17th, and the top 20 there completed by Ruben Perez of the Euskaltel-Euskadi team. Not been a great tour for the Euskaltel boys. They've had one man finishing up there in Samuel Sanchez.
How many times, Phil, have we seen this sight, the victory salute, and certainly this will be special for him.
Well, you can't get a nicer backdrop, can you? The Arc de Triomphe there. You look rather lonely out there, I think, but for Stegmans, of course, inside he's going to feel the happiest man in the world. He's just saved the reputation of a team which has won many, many races, all of the classic races, and nothing in this tour. All of a sudden, he's produced the sprint. You ask the question why he hasn't won before, but this was a perfect lead out. And I think also they need to thank David Miller, because he started the lead out for the wrong team.
He certainly did, but you know, he wasn't concerned about who was on his wheel behind. He just knew he had to keep the main field in a big long line.
This year belongs to the Spaniard Freire. A commanding win, Bob.
Tour Hushoff second in that competition. Eric Zabel, the eternal one, in 3rd. Duque and Kim Kirken having a great tour. He rounds out the top 5.
Valverde, Paul, in the mix as well with those couple stage wins.
Well, with a couple of stage win early on. Robbie Hunter consistent. Robbie McEwen, a quiet tour for Robbie McEwen this year in 8th place. Julian Dean up there in 9th. Watch out for the future, because in 10th, the Gerard Cholik is a man.
Yeah, I think he's absolute surprise, and how fitting he's a chimney sweeper in his normal profession before he became a bike rider, because first guy to win the Tour de France in 1903, Maurice Garin, he was a chimney sweep as well, except I suspect that Bernard Cole doesn't smoke like Maurice Garin did. However, he pulls on the first ever polka dot jersey to be worn by an Austrian cyclist, and he can't believe his tour. He's told us so on Versus. He said he just cannot believe the way this tour has gone.
Well, as far as he was concerned, it was a childhood dream to win the King of the Mountains competition, and once he got himself into that position, he certainly consolidated throughout the Alpine stages. He was a great performer, but I think he scared everybody by the fact that he was extremely high up in the overall classification. And once again, one of the revelations of the tour, because he rode a great individual time trial yesterday, but for him, he will wear that jersey with pride now.
But in the King of the Mountains competition, he was absolutely dominant. Sastre, he was 2nd. Frank Schleck, Vogler, Sebastian Lang, that's your top 5, but Bernard Cole dominated that competition.
Cole had a plan, and we saw that aggressive riding, Paul, of Stefan Schumacher net him some points.
Well, Schumacher definitely was probably the 2nd most aggressive bike rider in the Tour de France this year. John Lee Augustin got his points with the highest road in Europe to finish in.
Throughout history, often men who have stood in this spot have gone on to win yellow.
Well, 50 years after Charlie Gall of Luxembourg won the Tour de France, we've hardly ever mentioned a rider from Luxembourg, and now look at this. Kim Kirkland in the opening week getting green and yellow for a while, and now Andy Schleck winning the white jersey here. It's a tremendous fillip for the future, I think. When he rode his first Tour of Italy, he finished 2nd in the white jersey. Now he's ridden his first Tour de France, he's taken a white jersey. He's a very modest guy. It's a super family. He'll come back, and whether he likes it or not, within 2 years we'll be talking of him as a favourite to win the Tour.
I think everybody realises this man man is one of the stars of the future. And I think what is amazing is if you look at the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, there are 450,000 people actually live there, and 3 of their greatest cyclists were in the Tour de France this year. Let's not forget Frank Schleck, his brother, had the yellow jersey for a little while, but the brotherly love of these 2 riders, I think, was really obvious on the road this year, and obviously the brothers in arms of Team CSC was phenomenal.
Andy Schleck there, he's your winner of the white jersey, but not without a lot of heat coming from Roman Kreuziger. He challenged Schleck throughout that competition. Nibali from Liquigas had the jersey for it. Eduardo Gonzalez, you might want to write these names down for the future.
That's right. These are names to look forward to starting in 2009. Jean-Louis Augustin, remember that crash, that spectacular descent down the mountain. Luis Sanchez as well.
Sylvain Chavanel tried to win a stage of the Tour de France in 8 attempts. It was his 8th Tour de France this year, and finally he came up with a victory. And I have to say, if you want to toss coins to see who is the most aggressive rider, it's between Stefan Schumacher and Sylvain Chavanel. But even on the Champs-Élysées stage, the Frenchman went out, and the funny thing was he was chased down towards the end by the teammates of the men he's going to race with next year.
Oh no, good point, good point. Thank heavens. No, this is a proud moment for Carlos Sainz, but I think it's made more creditable by the fact that he did it in the time trial and not in the mountains. We never expected this man to produce that time trial, and least of all did Cadel Evans.
Well, the thing is, Phil, for many years you've always said about the magic of the yellow jersey, and once again the magic of the yellow jersey fell onto the shoulders of Carlos Sainz in the individual time trial. He's the only man, I think, and I'm sure Bob will agree with me, that lent out with his hand to grab the Tour de France this year. He wanted it. He grabbed it on the Alpe d'Huez, and because of that pride, he took it in the time trial.
I think you're absolutely right. A very modest man, a very humble man, but a very serious bike racer. And this is the fruition of many years of training and dedication and sacrifice. He marked the 13.8 kilometers of Alpe d'Huez as his moment to shine. He took full advantage of that, and like you said, he grabbed the Tour de France by the neck and throttled it into submission, and all he had to do was 53 kilometers in the individual time trial to solidify that. Cadel Evans maybe a little bit overspent by that last time trial just yesterday, and Carlos Sastre reserving 1 minute and 5 seconds of his advantage over Evans to get the final yellow jersey.
The thing is, if on Alpe d'Huez Carlos Sastre had won by 1 minute 45 instead of what he did, 2 minutes 15, Cadel Evans would have won the Tour by a single.
So guys, the podium, to get back to it, would we have picked these 3, any of us? The national anthem of Spain.
And we see that Kim Anderson, who is the manager of the team CSC, has said CSC today will not defend the lead of the yellow jersey, and that's become evident, Paul, because the team is not riding at the front.
Well, I think you have to be fairly logical when you're a team manager and you think about the tactics on a day like this. Fabian Cancellara was able to conserve the yellow jersey on the flat stages. However, now, Phil, we're starting to look at a very difficult stage. There's a lot of climbs along the route, with a second category climb at about 40 kilometers to go, and I think that climb will be just a little bit too much for Fabian Cancellara. So what's happening is, because that breakaway got themselves a 14.5-minute lead, they're going to have to see themselves get chased by other riders. It's a great day of racing today, 64 degrees Fahrenheit. It's mostly sunny. There are a few clouds in the sky, and the wind today is actually swung around a fraction to become an easterly wind at 12 miles an hour. So that, on the majority of this course today, Phil, will actually be a crosswind.
Perfect condition today. The riders know as we get into the stage, the hills get right up to them, and this is going to be a very difficult day of racing. You can see also the peloton is racing pretty hard down there today. There's an echelon forming at the front indicating the wind direction. As always, we sort out our riders to put on the heart rate monitors. Grabsch, Burkhardt, Martinez, Grabsch and Axel Merckx are weighing. We'll see how the Hearts cope with the climbs today, because after nearly a week of flat riding, it's often the case that when you get onto these hills, the tempo and the body objects.
This is work at the back here. You can see one of the riders from Barlow World having to drive up to the front. But I tell you one thing, it'll be interesting to watch Axel Merckx's heart rate today, because when Eddie Merckx was racing, he actually had a resting heart rate of 32.
Peloton at 10 minutes 30 seconds. It's been a very fast start to the day, the sort of start we like to see. Sadly, without Remy Di Gregorio today, the rider who was a real hero yesterday in his first Tour de France, involved in the crash which took out Xavier Zandio, and in fact then Di Gregorio plugged on, held onto the peloton to the last 10 or 15k, came in last on the day, but then it was found he'd actually broken his elbow and is now out of the race. This is quite a route today though, Paul. Plenty of climbs. We've done 3 of them, but we still have 5 to come on the road, plus a couple of sprints. And the interest towards the end, a second category climb at Haute-Follin, and at the Croix de Libération, that's a third category climb, before what we know now is a very tricky drop in towards the town in Autun.
Well, a number of our co-commentators on different channels have actually been out to have a look at the run in towards the finish line. Riders like Rolf Sorensen, who himself was a stage winner and aware of the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, he thought that it was a very tricky run down to the finish line, and with about 500 meters to go, there is a very dodgy corner.
Yes, it's going to be a most interesting ride today. As we see, the skies are lovely. It's actually quite warm at the finishing line right now. Brilliant sunshine, just what we want on the Tour de France. As the riders now settle in, and we now know that the CSC may still be in yellow tonight with Cancellara, but they're making other teams do the work here at the main field, and that they've started a chase very early on today. At one stage, these leaders were 14 minutes 40 seconds up. It's already down to 9:28. You see the little icons, yellow-green. That's the location of the 2 principal leaders of the Tour. They're both in the peloton at 9:27. We're looking at the 4 leaders here with Gianpaolo Sciulla at the back for the moment. Chance to look at 109.4 kilometers to go. A lot of the work is being done by the rider in green, according to the statistics. 30% of the work, in fact, to 25% of Sylvain Chavanel. Chavanel played the true gentleman teammate yesterday, and that's how he was referred to in all of the papers. He wouldn't win the final climb in the breakaway yesterday because he would have taken the jersey off his teammate Ogier, and Ogier appreciated that.
Well, actually, the funny story is, in fact, he went back to his team manager in the car behind and said to his team manager, I'm going to take this sprint and I'm going to take the points and steal the jersey away from my teammate, but he was only joking at the time.
Okay, well done. But today's a different matter. Today's another day. He's got into the move again. Ogier himself tried to get away right from the gun. They were on him immediately, and yet when Chavanel went, he was able to move away. That's the way it goes, but now he's free, and he's now the new leader of the King of the Mountains at the moment. He scored 17 points overall now, so that's a good score at this stage on the second category climb of the Haute-Follin. 4 riders still clear. I thought they would have been wiped out, but all of a sudden a little bit of a distraction back in the field with the odd tumble, and the result is they're holding their own on the climb just now. 10 points for the top of the climb, so they would desperately like to stay away. These forests here creating a beautiful area of France as they steadily make progress uphill, but it's gradual. The gap coming down, a higher tempo of the peloton, inside 2 minutes, 1:47 now we're being told, as they continue to keep a high tempo. Sciulla preparing now to do quite a bit of work. I'd like to have another look at the peloton just now and see what's going on there, but there we are. It is still Sciulla. That's the official start of the King of the Mountains. 5 kilometers to the top.
Well, that's not a lot of fun. These riders in this leading group would be a much happier group of riders if that banner had indicated 1 kilometer to go to the summit. Acceleration there coming from Sylvain Chavanel, and Bonnet not too happy with this gradient.
He's just hooked onto the back wheel here of Chavanel, who now is getting very tired and is being outpaced by a pure climber here in Sciulla, and Sciulla is ripping off the King of the Mountains and losing him. He's won every climb today. No, this is Sciulla. This is Sciulla here at the back. It is Chavanel who started to push away and decided he wants to hold on for those 10 points. Well, there's a turn up, and Bonnet can't complete with this. He also is losing contact with Sciulla.
Well, Bonnet is a little bit of a sprinter, really, so he won't be at home on the slopes of a climb like this. Sylvain Chavanel is a man who is capable of riding high in the overall standings of the Tour, so he has the ability to climb as well as ride a very good individual time trial. These guys now feel they'll just have to find their own rhythm, try and stay as comfortable as possible, and wait for the return of the main field.
There's a typical picture of the Tour de France, the race directors, the referees watching, all the press motorcyclists, the photographers. He wants them all out the way because there's a big split on now. and there'll be nobody allowed in that gap for a moment as the Bolo World rider and Crédit Agricole rider lose contact with the two French riders at the front. A little bit surprised that Schuler has been unhitched, but he has been seen to be tired ever since he caught up the leaders, and the gap has opened quite quickly at 125 the spread now.
Well, 125 is not very much at all, and you can be absolutely certain that the main field will be charging up this climb. Philippe Gilbert has found himself a brand new set of legs, and he's decided he wants to try and keep this breakaway clear for as long as possible, because Gilbert is actually a very good sprinter. Now, his thinking about this at the moment, as we see the sprinters now coming off the back of the Group Tour, Hussop, the winner of yesterday, not going to be disputing the sprint at the finish this afternoon. But for Gilbert, the reason he's forcing at the front is he wants to stay clear and maybe stay in the front group, because if he can survive the third category climb towards the end, he could win the stage.
Well, Hussop complains daily of problems with a sciatic nerve. It didn't seem to affect his sprint yesterday, but as soon as he's on the climb, he's now slipped off the back here, and not with a group, but on his own. That doesn't look good. There's the team car saying, how are you? What do you want? Do you want to leave some water with your ending? Because we're going to have to leave you and go up to the lead.
After this one, because there's a final third category of the climb of the day, which is the Croix de la Libération, and that is a pretty nasty little climb, which is situated a step of just about 15 kilometers to go, and I think that's an ideal launch pad for somebody to try and surprise the whole field and try and get themselves a win, because that then is almost completely downhill towards the finish.
Well, the peloton showed every sign of wiping out this breakaway 50 kilometers ago, and then they gradually turned off the chase and just kept tempo. They never shut this door at all, and who knows, we may be looking at the day's winners here, the way that the chase is not yet consolidated at the back. Coming up to the final run into the finishing now. Now, is Gilbert going to finally say, I'm sorry, but I want this one? The rider leaving is Sylvain Chavanel, the face of concentration of Philippe Gilbert. And probably the finish is just around that top corner. Big crowd up here as well.
Big crowd have turned out to see this high spot of the early part of the Tour de France, almost 900 meters in altitude. And it's Gilbert who's setting the pace on the front, the French-speaking Belgian rider on the FDJ team. Chavanel very happy, I think, to have an ally like Gilbert, because these are two strong bike riders, and they have got a very good chance of creating a little bit of a surprise. Chavanel goes through the inside there. He's waiting and looking to see if he can spot where the banner is, and there it is, just around the corner. He's making his way forward, and again, he's going to get himself maximum points, and he will, at the end of the day now, Phil, have a very serious advantage and a very serious lead in the King of the Mountains classification.
Well, he's now got 37, and Gilbert has got himself a 23, so they are well clear now of everybody.
By the front end of the main field, William Bonnet on the left-hand side in the green and white, and Gianpaolo Ciulla on the right-hand side, as he keeps changing around in the red and white of Team Barlow World, back in the main field, and allowing the main field to pass safely.
And it looks as though it will be a tricky way in today. These are the two leaders as we go back again. This is Vinokourov, and this has just happened on the left of the road. Vinokourov here, the rider with him, and he doesn't look too happy at all, is his strong teammate Column. Now, we don't know how that happened. There's a slow motion for you. Hasn't really told us a lot. That's Colomb. And it looks as though Vinokourov has either winded himself or hurt himself here. And another teammate coming back to help them as well. Well, this has not been the day for Astana. At about 26 kilometers, 25 and a half to go, that has happened. And the man who is the people's favourite to win this race is not looking happy there. And the number 2 man, Andreas Kloden, has also been down today. Well, these are very strange days in the Tour de France. What strange days we're having in the Tour de France, Paul. We've had Kloden on the floor. Now we're getting Vinokourov on the floor. What is going on down there?
Well, I think, Phil, we did predict it was going to be a strange day, but Alexander Vinokourov went down very hard there, and I wonder if that accident actually involved a motorbike that was going by. But when you look at the main field like this, stretched out at almost 55 kilometers an hour, Vinokourov is going to have a very hard time trying to get himself back into this bike race. He's got Antonio Colom with him, but it's going to be panic on board the Astana machine.
Well, this is amazing, and you know, we all the time are talking about the very, very difficult and dangerous run down off the hills into Autun, convinced that the organisers were not expecting all of these riders to approach the town together. There could be many more surprises to come here. Look at our cameras panning the countryside to find just what has happened to the #1 Tour favourite.
He's not there. We're waiting to see arrive in the picture there. We cut away from it, but we were waiting to see where was Alexander Vinokourov. Just before the start, the name on the lips of everybody of the #1 favourite was Alexander Vinokourov. There he is. He's got a lot of teammates along behind him, but we're looking at a big gap now to pull this man back into the race. He's sitting at the back there. He's the rider with the white helmet. This is going to be a massive team time trial for these riders.
The only man not there will be Andreas Kloden. They've left him in the peloton as a reserve. The whole team's been sent back, other than Kloden, to bring this man back to the race.
Well, there are 6 riders there who've dropped back for Alexander Vinokourov. Rather interesting to note, Phil, that when Andreas Kloden had his problem, only 1 rider dropped back to help him. I think we know who is the boss of this squad.
Well, you're absolutely right, and now Vinokourov sat at the back of this group, going to not panic now. He's just going to rely on the team to do their job. That's why they're in the Tour de France, to see this man is kept in the right place, and now they've got to put him back. These boys are going to have to ride at between 55 and 60 kilometres an hour.
Just tagged on the back there is my old favourite on the flatlands, Johan van Sommerum. He'll be breathing a sigh of relief that he's got a little bit of help to get himself back into the race. These men now have been chasing for 2 hours. They've got to keep the pressure on, but for Alexander Vinokourov, as you say, Phil, rightly, he must not panic. He's got to use his team to pace him back into looking at a race situation with 2 leaders 23 seconds ahead of the main field. Alexander Vinokourov there, just at the back of his teammates there, is around about a minute behind that peloton. He has not panicked, though. He really is a seasoned professional. You cannot panic at a moment like this, because you could find yourself losing some serious time. There are the 2 leaders on the slopes of the Croix de la Libération, and there's the main field.
Oh, and well, the camera foreshortens. Let's hope it's going to give them away at least for the last climb today. Then they were cleaned up. Here goes Fabian Weckmann from the front of the bunch, the champion of Germany, good climber, former king of the mountains in the Giro d'Italia. He's having a go. The trouble is, he's a carrot now, and they're going to chase him, and that is surely going to take them up to the 2 leaders.
Well, that will very rapidly take them up to the 2 leaders. The only 2 Astana riders, Phil, by the way, who did not stand by the side of the road and wait for Alexander Vinokourov, or Andreas Kloden and, of course, Andrei Kashekin, the 2 leaders of Rechange, if you like, in case Vinokourov doesn't get himself back into this bike race. But I think, knowing Alexander Vinokourov, he will fight back one way or another.
He might not, I don't know whether he'll get back, but he's trying to limit his losses for sure. It's not easy. There goes Weckmann. Almost looks straight into our living room there as he goes past the camera. He's trying to reach them, and if he reaches them on his own, they still have a chance, because they'll have added strength, and a good one as well. I take my hat off to these 2 today. They've really matured in the Tour de France today, these 2 riders.
They certainly have. They're on the slopes of the climb now. Chavanel wondering, will I get these 3 points at the top? Well, no, 4 points, because it's a 3rd category climb. They're still working together. They are probably hoping that Fabian Weckmann comes across, then they'll try and latch onto him, but it's a tall order to ask them to lift it that little bit more, because they have really ridden well over these last 40 kilometres.
Well, they've still got 4 kilometres to climb up this hill. It's an awful long way. Not quite as steep as the slopes of the Folin, but the Libération is still going to be a tough one, because they're tired now. They've been in the front virtually all day. And as the helicopters go up to give the VIPs the bird's eye view of the last climb of the day, we're more concerned about the long way down. It is very steep, extremely twisty, and we are convinced the organisers never thought 180 riders would make that descent together.
Well, it's going to be a very risky descent on the way down there. Look at this now. Team Rabobank have come to the front end of the main field, and not too far away is Oscar Freire. This is the kind of finish that Oscar Freire likes, but Fabian Cancellara is still there in the yellow jersey. I didn't think he would hold on here this afternoon, but he's going to.
It's the maillot jaune on your shoulders. It makes you ride like 2 men. And the peloton now are fancying Rasmussen for some points on the climb. And also, it looks as though the catch, this is Philippe Gilbert, has cracked I think, as the peloton are coming right up on him. 5 seconds, they're saying.
Well, Philippe Gilbert has slowly but surely given up there. You can see Sylvain Chavanel just insisting for a little bit longer, hoping he can hold on to the top of that climb. Look at his face here. He's got himself maximum points on every climb of the day so far, and he's hoping he will survive this one too. Rabobank, though, as you can see, Phil, have got themselves very much organised here.
Well, they've still got 3 kilometres of this climb. Gilbert will go back, it looks like, and Rabobank wants to bring Rasmussen up, and maybe Oscar Freire as well, because once over this climb, all obstacles are behind the riders. He looked over his shoulder. He would not have seen the peloton. They appeared as he looked the other way. He doesn't realise it, and now he will. Oh,
now he does. There he is. He's got about 20 bike lengths in front of him, but you can see the orange streak now on the front end of the main field. That is Team Rabobank. They are a great squad. They've waited in the wings for an awful long time. There's Michael Bogert on the front. You can recognise him from that big smile of his, but that smile has now turned into a massive grimace. But the Saunier Duval have decided they're going to put the hammer down as we close up to 2.5 kilometres to the summit of the Côte de la Croix de la Libération.
Well, they're all at it now, because anybody that can get a lead by the top of this climb has got just 8 kilometres. Meanwhile, he's in the field here. He looks as though he's got rid of all his teammates, except the one man still taking the pace for him is Maxim Iglinski, who's riding the Tour de France, one of the great young hopes of this team, and he's there to pull back his captain, and he's going to try and do it. A sprinter with him there is Ventoso. He won't take part in this. He's just thankful somebody's taking him back towards the peloton.
What I appreciate about Alexander Vinokourov here is he's had a lot of bad luck, that's absolutely certain, but he's not giving up. He's battling, he's making sure that he loses as little time as possible. It is so hard to ride yourself back into a bike race like this when you're going past all of the riders who are actually being dropped from the main field.
Well, this rider here from Saunier Duval, I'm not sure who it is, but we think it might be De La Fuente, David De La Fuente, who's made the move from the peloton. But I think he's misjudged it, because looking by his face, he might well be dropping back here.
Well, he was trying, and he's got himself a slight advantage. All he can hope is that they turn off the pressure at the front end of the main field, but nobody now is going to turn off any pressure at all. 4 riders from Rabobank on the front end of the peloton, and in 5th or 6th place is the French national champion, Christophe Moreau, but everybody else is still in there. Team Astana are trying to move their way through the main field, and still Alexander Vinokourov is going past riders who have been dropped. I'm sure the pressure is on the front end of this main field for the win, but you can see that Alexander Vinokourov is making his way through the peloton. A slightly illegal manoeuvre there by the team car, but they're there theoretically in support of their 4 kilometres to go. There's a series of 3 very nasty hairpin bends for the moment. Everybody appears to be upright still. Yellow jersey on the front. Fabian Cancellara is riding the race of his life here. I thought the race of his life was on the road into Compiègne, but this, keeping his yellow jersey on a more small mountain stage like today, is phenomenal.
Now I know it's Popovic. When he freewheels down like that, that sets him up. But you know what, Paul? Again, Cancellara is using this incredible strength, and he might well join this rider here. Look at him, he's running away with it.
Well, he's creating gaps there.
Oh, he's wide, he's wide. He was terribly wide. I could see him going all wrong. He did well to hold that, and they're all together at the front.
All together again. Just watch this as he comes round this corner. These riders, you have to take risks if you want to win, but all of a sudden you don't know what the corner is going to be like. He's gone straight off the road there. Cancellara chasing him like a bullet, keeps it upright, doesn't fall down, and is straight back onto the road. These men are phenomenal bike handlers. Team Lampre have got control of the front end of the main field. They're inside of 4 kilometres to go now, but this is just a little bit of chaos. This is an unbelievable finish.
Well, we said it was a rather difficult finale today. I think we've been proven there. This is back with the Vinokourov group, and that little bit of hesitation may help him. Hats off to Tom Bonen. He's driving this group now, and Vinokourov will be very grateful of a chance for just a few deep breaths. Lampre advantage them now as they get their team onto the front to pull.
Well, once they get down into the outskirts of town, there's still a few dodgy little corners to go for, but look how ragged that main field is looking. A lot of pressure now being put on the front end of this group by Team Lampre. They feel now that they've got the big chance. Looking over their shoulders, they want to see what sort of damage they're doing. Well, big damage, I have to say. The big damage today is Alexander Vinokourov. Not of his own volition. He went down in a nasty crash, but he's still trying to keep himself in this bike race.
Well, this is turning out to be a superb finale yet again. Lampre's up there, the French are up there. I think George Hincapie is up there as well, as they go under what must be 2 kilometres to the finish here. And they are now beginning to run away from the climb. But believe me, once they come into the town, they make, I think it's a right-hand turn, a left-hand turn, isn't it?
They got
and
left
then they
and
climb
right
up a hill to the finish. It'll catch them out. Watch it.
It will catch them out. That sweeping right-hander. That's Hincapie now up into second position. A good call today, George Hincapie, because Hincapie in the early part of his career was a very good sprinter. We saw him do that. He can get himself over the mountains. And bear in mind today that if George Hincapie can get himself the win of the stage, he can get himself the yellow jersey. And Hincapie, I know, has worked that one out.
Well, I have a feeling now that Vinokourov, he's fourth in line here, will concede some seconds today, but he hasn't conceded anything like it looked like he was going to lose a couple of minutes at one stage. He's come back to the front. He's going to try and knock off every second he can. He is now under the 2 to go. As these are the leaders under the 2 to go. I'm sorry. That's about 1.3 miles from the finish.
Well, there you can see Vinokourov is a kilometre behind the front end of the main field, but at speeds like this, that is actually less than the 1 minute mark. You can see the organisation, somebody moving to the front there, trying to create a big surprise. That's a late minute burst for the line, and on a day like this, you can surprise anybody. Saunier Duval coming across there. That's David Miller, I think, the big, tall, lanky man from Scotland.
Well, if it is Miller, this is a sort of climb, but he's got it. It's an awful long way to the finish here. He may have gone too soon. Boyd Telecom have replaced Laurent Lefebvre at the front, and I can't see this rider's face at the moment in the darkness of the pictures. The field are coming up behind. If this is Miller, and it looks like him, he has got to wait just a little bit because he's too far from the line.
Well, the sprinters now have got to get their men on the front and get this organised, but Miller has now gone around that corner. Vinokourov, we keep going back to see where he is. He's around about 50 seconds in arrears. He's trying to save his Tour de France with this ride. He won't have any friends at all in that group. He has to take his own responsibility. He has to ride to the finish line and keep going. He's inside of 2 kilometres to go.
Well, we're waiting for the leaders to reach 1, so Vinokourov, and they're about there, so he is holding them at around about 50 seconds. Vinokourov, and I think he's destined to lose that now. These 2 riders are still clear, and it looks as though I don't think that's Miller, you know, but it could be. As he gets into the front, it looks as though he hasn't had a shave this morning, and the rider who's got onto his back wheel there, I think, is Tony Geslin, and it doesn't matter because the Lampre are closing in.
Lampre are there, they're locked in. There's a line of riders right behind them. George Hincapie's disappeared from the front end of the main field. Cadel Evans is not far away from the front end of this group. He's up there in about 5th or 6th. The yellow jersey is safely in that main field here as they line themselves up for the line. 400 metres to go.
And Eric Zabel has put himself in a brilliant position. Centre picture and dodging, and Freuner's on his shoulder. This is a battle of the sprinters now. Zabel is out of it. Freuner isn't as he races up to the line. Eric Freuner, Hincapie's going after them. And also there is Napolitano, but the man who has won on the line, I think, is Fischer. Pozzato. Filippo Pozzato has taken it. Well, he was on the lips of a lot of people this morning, but he produced one incredible finish to win that.
Well, what a race that has been this afternoon. Let's have a look at the finish line here from the air. Now look at Pozzato there on the left-hand side in the lime green jersey, waiting for it all to open. Zabel had it right, Freire had it right, but right through the middle, Pippo Pozzato said at the start of the day here, Phil, I'm going for this. This is my stage. It's not very often a rider can pick a stage, predict that he's going to win, and come up with the victory. Oscar Freire right up there as well, but here is the arrival of Alexander Vinokourov's group with Tom Bonen.
Well, what's the time? This is a loss of time, I'm afraid, for the #1 favourite, the first big favourite to concede today. But he's ridden brilliantly to lose just less than a minute. He's still a little way to go. In fact, he probably will lose more than a minute here as he tries now himself to fight all the way to the line. The minute's gone by. He's left himself a handicap for the remaining 2 weeks and a bit of the Tour de France. Vinokourov will have to fight his way through the Alps now and get his own back when he can, because he's had a rather unlucky ending to the day here. As he comes up to the line, he brings the peloton home, a minute and 20 seconds or so.
That is a huge amount of time to lose on a day when you were expecting to finish in the main field. So Alexander Vinokourov, first of all, we have to figure out, Phil, whether he's seriously injured and if he can carry on. But look at that coming up through the middle. There is the big lunch of the line. There are the golden locks of Pippo Pozzato. He said before the start of today's stage, this this is going to be my victory. Well, he was right.
He was very much right. The speed of the sprint was just short of 50 miles an hour, or 78 kilometers an hour. That is amazing. For nearly 50-mile-an-hour sprint, and it was slightly uphill, by the way, too. But Pazzato gets it, and second looks like it was Frere. But we'll just wait. I think that's Berghout on the right-hand side there. As we take a look here, that's where Pazzato is in the sprint, and a long way back. But because it was an uphill finish, and he followed the wheel of George Hincapie, it looks to me, from up here, as he then decided to change direction and nip through the traffic in his own route. And he got up behind Zabel, and then he got behind Jeslan, and then he went over the top of them at full speed ahead. Napolitano taking him on, and also Oscar Freire on the far right. And it was, in fact, Freire second, Napolitano will be third on the line. It will be. And I'm just still trying to make out and confirm that rider from T-Mobile. But I think it was possibly Kim Kirken.
Oscar Freire, who won 2 stages last year.
Bernardi was in third place. Kirken was fourth. I didn't recognise him because until recently he was the champion of Luxembourg. Of course, he wears his team colours now. And Eric Zabel getting fifth. There was a moment I thought Zabel had made the move. Also, I thought George Hincapie had done it too, but he slipped away to sixth. Stefan Schumacher eighth. Top 10 completed by Jerome Pino of the Bouygues Telecom. Cadel Evans, that's a very good result for Cadel in a sprint like that. And the yellow jersey of Cancellara in 12th place. Valverde was there. These are big names in the Tour de France. The one that's missing, of course, Michael Rogers, also there, 19th, was that unfortunate crash to Alexander Vinokourov. Fabian Cancellara still keeps that jersey despite what it was a great race. Cloden keeps his second place. Pazzato leapfrogs into third. Miller is now fourth, and George Hincapie had another great day. He's going good, George, in fifth place. Gusev will keep his white jersey, his best young rider, in sixth. And then the other riders here, Thomas Dekker having a brilliant Tour de France the first time around in ninth place. And Oscar Freire into 13th here, gets small bonus today. Kashikin and Cadel Evans still riding high, just 56 seconds off. A bit further down for you, Michael Rogers, another man that's waiting for his day. He's in 17th place, and Zabel, the sprinter, in 19th place behind last year's runner-up, Oscar Pereira. Let's go down to the podium. Here he comes, Filippo Pazzato. As Paul just mentioned, in the last time we were here, 98, a Swedish rider, Magnus Bagstedt, won the stage. He's not been selected, but he's on the same team as Pazzato, Liquigas. And this, for Pazzato, is a special win. He last won in Saint-Brieuc a few years ago. We're down on the famous Côte d'Or department of France. The riders now on the eve of their journey into the Alps. 183 riders have made it so far, and now just how many will complete the journey to Paris? This is a beautiful day today. Alexander Vinokourov stays in the race after the crash yesterday and the big chase back by him and his team. We're entertained on the finishing line here in Bourg-en-Bresse by the Tour de France riders of tomorrow. Look at this. He had a mediocre prologue, got a bit better on stage one, Paul, and then a series of great results.
Well, that's the important thing about a man like Eric Zabel, is he's very consistent. Yes, not a very good ride in the prologue, but that's not his discipline. But if you look at the rest of his performances, he's been very much inside of the top 13 on every flat stage, and that's why Mr. Consistency has got himself the green jersey, a title, Phil. Let's not forget that he's won 6 times.
Indeed, he has. That 37 years of age he is now. He's got 102 points after yesterday. Tom Bonan didn't score, sits on 98. Neither did Robin McEwen. Oscar Freire did, and he's come up a little bit to the side of Vinokourov. Talking to Stuart O'Grady here, both his knees are stitched and his elbow bandaged. Fabian Cancellara, another great performance yesterday. He keeps his yellow jersey, and they've also got the yellow numbers on now as the leading team, CSC.
Well, a long flat stage in store for the riders, and as soon as they came out of the starting gate, everybody was starting to be just a little bit nervous because of the fact that they knew today was a day that may well be a rest day before the big mountains. The whole of Team Astana getting around Alexander Vinokourov. They'll have to nurse him through today.
Well, once we got to the first sprinter, Blini-Souch, it was Bradley Wiggins. He went away after 2 kilometres. He is now into double figures with his lead, but here he was leading by 15 minutes and 25. Great sprint, very determined sprint by Tom Bonan. He gets the 4 points for second. He's now equal first alongside Zabel with 102 points apiece. So that's going to be a big fight today. Out to the climb of the day at Grandmont, Wiggins still well clear.
Well, Wiggins actually building up a pretty massive advantage here, and he went over the top of this climb still about a quarter of an hour in front of the front end of the main field, going for his solo effort. But the man who leads the King of the Mountains classification just happens to be his teammate Sylvain Chavanel after his escapade of yesterday, and he sweeps up the rest of the points from the main field.
Third there, Juan Manuel Garate, former champion of Spain. Then just at the same point, a change of bicycles for the yellow jersey. No big panic here. But obviously a problem, I think, with his saddle, indicating there to get it, the team mechanics have a look at it. So Cancellara back on the highway.
Well, he rides back through. Nobody waited for him to pace him back into the main field at this point, but the mechanic had repaired the bicycle. Now, just watch this, because at this point there, he'd actually handed over a bicycle, a bottle to the spectating policeman.
He did indeed. But he's back in the race now. The main field are not angry, and he wears number 33 with those yellow numbers, chatting there with his team management, Alan Galopin. And so Fabian Cancellara now is back at the race. He's just tailed off and have a chat here. The Wiggins, the latest gap now, is just on 17 minutes. The peloton itself has stepped up the pace. CSC have taken control now and decided double figures is enough. We still have 123 kilometres to go.
Team CSC have held the yellow jersey right since the start in London, where their man Fabian Cancellara won himself the prologue time trial, and he could see himself lose this to Bradley Wiggins if they don't take responsibility, and he may well just enjoy taking that yellow jersey one more day into the mountains. I don't think he wants to relinquish it, but it's going to be a long, hard chase now to pull back 17 minutes. In fact, this is the biggest breakaway advantage we've had since the Tour started. The maximum lead we had was 13 minutes and 50 seconds on stage 3. That was bettered yesterday by the breakaway, who managed to get to 14 minutes and 45 seconds. But Bradley Wiggins, for the moment, has gone better than both.
Well, if he did win the stage, he would go one better than Brian Robinson, the great cyclist of the 50s. In 1959, Brian Robinson won a stage of the Tour de France for Great Britain by 20 minutes and 6 seconds. And to do it, he was in an escape of 140 kilometres. Well, if Bradley's going to do it today, he will be in an escape of 197 kilometres.
Here at all, everybody is waiting. Everybody's scared to take the responsibility too soon. They all want to have a line of riders on the front end of the main field, but they don't want to start until they're absolutely certain they can take it right the way through to the finish.
Well, T-Mobile have moved 5 riders in the pink jerseys up to the right. Here he is. That's rather a nice camera shot, and what a horrible sight. We could be playing Cowboys and Indians here now as they come over the ridge. They've spotted him. There is the face on the right of Bradley Wiggins, and for the first time in nearly 5 hours, the peloton can now read his number once again. It has been a truly outstanding performance today by Wiggins. It had to come to an end. It's not quite at an end yet, but it will happen.
8.5 kilometres to go, and Bradley Wiggins very shortly will see the riders who were with him about 190 kilometres ago for the first time. There's still no one at the front end of the main field, Phil, has had the courage or the strength in their team to go to the front and start this lead out. We are so close to the finish. We're looking here at the stage victory on a stage of the Tour de France, and everybody's worried. They realise now this is the last chance for the sprinters. Fabian Cancellara is sitting there in a very dangerous position. Look how close the field is packed together. They're waiting to start, but they're reticent to start because of the fear of making a mistake.
I think that could be the case. They're throwing off all the drinking bottles there, because even half a kilo is lighter on the bikes. Get rid of all the fluid now. It's all about speed now when it's called for. There's only a certain percentage get involved in the finish. The others, they're preoccupied, just trying to keep out of trouble, making sure they finish in the group, because the group always gets the same time. That's all Cancellara has to do today, finish in the group to be in yellow tomorrow. But the sprinters, they need to be at the front of the group for the points in the green jersey. Well, this is amazing. I have to say, this poor guy, Bradley Wiggins, they are making sure he is cooked and overcooked.
Well, he's been pan-fried, that's for certain, out on the course this afternoon, because we've seen temperatures in excess of 30 degrees Celsius. At the back of the pack, we've seen a very hard day in the saddle for Alexander Vinokourov, but at least when he gets home to his hotel room this afternoon, Phil, he can put a tick through stage 6. I've got through it, thank you very much.
I'm not sure that to me that might mean he's not feeling good.
Well, he's riding at the back end of the main field. Sergei Ivanov is the rider alongside him on the left-hand side. It's been a tough day for Alexander Vinokourov. Let's not forget that man has got a lot of stitches in both knees and his elbow, but he's ridden through this stage here. But will he come out and fight again tomorrow? Look at his fingers as well. Everything is patched up.
That doesn't tell me good news at all. Alexander, we know pretty well. I don't like what we've just seen there. It has been a very sticky day. There he is on the left as the field go around him. The man who has dictated the race has just been caught at 4 miles from the finish. What an incredible race. He broke away 1 mile in. He's led for 120 miles today.
Well, there's a lot of riders. Their heart rates have dropped down this afternoon. Sergio Paulino, Olympic silver medalist from Athens, his heart rate is only beating at about 130 beats a minute. Phil, this is a very strange sprint. At the moment, they're actually playing into the hands of Robbie McEwen. McEwen likes a dangerous sprint. He likes a chaotic sprint, and they really need to pick up the pace on a little bit of chaos, and I have a feeling this is going to be a very chaotic sprint. 2.5 kilometers to go. Quick Stepper in control, but not with a big long train.
Not at all. They're trying to block the race rather than lead it up to the line here. Just watch the movement behind now. McEwen is right there. He's about 5 riders back out of our vision just now. He's searching for the wheel of Eric Zabel and Bonen. Not surprisingly, as those 3 will also better watch out for the whereabouts of Thor Hushovd and Oscar Freire. This T-Mobile boys, I think today are riding for Bernard Eisel rather than Cavendish, but I think Cavendish is in amongst it.
Well, Cavendish seems to be right up at the front there in about 9th or 10th position. The rider there from Quick Step says, I've done my turn, I'm swinging off. The small figure you can see there, the second rider from T-Mobile is Mark Cavendish, zigzagging about, wondering which race wheel shall I follow. There's the chaos. There's nobody got control. There's a rider at the front from Team Milram now trying to stretch it out, but I've never seen, charging into the line at 1.8 kilometers to go, such a bunched up front end to a sprint so far in this tour.
There is no organisation. Cavendish is just off on the left to our picture. His teammate dropped right out of it, but look at an early move there. Zabel wants them up. His 2 teammates here are saying, just wind it up, go, go, go. How much power have they got left?
Zabel's a little bit too far to the front now. He's in 4th position. It's still outside of the 1 kilometre mark. Right on his wheel, though, is Oscar Freire. There's another move coming up. Another rider from Milram wants to try and control the pack if they can. Boonen is stuck in the middle there. He's got no teammates at all around him. He's looking for a way out. He feels at this point a little bit panicked because he's got that boxed-in feeling.
Well, underneath the trees they go. Hushovd is dead centre, and just behind at the moment, Freire is off to the right. Are they right? Is Julian Dean going to finish this off for New Zealand? He's got the front again, but he's gone too soon to the front. But this is a massive power result as Marcus Berghout goes for the line now. Who is going to take the sprint here? Hunter is coming through. Hunter's made a dive for the line of Robert Foster as they come to the line. Bonen is now coming. This is an absolute free-for-all, and Foster is making the final throws, but in a final dig for the line now, as this looks like Stegmans is going for the line, and he gets it right. It's Bonen right on the line, and he's made it at last.
Well, he was looking for that one. Phil, he was going all over the place, left and right through the middle. He wanted to come out. Let's just have a look at that one more time. Gerolsteiner were the boys who really sorted it out. Bonen is down there in 5th place. All of a sudden, he starts to move up. The lead-out man for Forster moves across, forcing Tom Bonen to go right the way round the outside. He comes back in to replace himself in the middle. He's got Oscar Freire challenging him there. But today, Tom Bonen had the bit between his teeth. He wanted this win. He wanted to get his green jersey back with pride. And look at Eric Zabel. He's still right up there in 2nd or 3rd position. But Tom got the win that he's been looking for a couple of days.
Well, I make it Bonan, Frere, Zabel, Chavanel from that shot, but the camera might prove me wrong. That is a very determined win. So Tom Bonan is back in green tonight, and he's got his stage win.
Well, that's what he wanted. He was looking for that. He's been very consistent in all of the sprints. It was a very strange sprint, Phil, but at the end they managed to kick up the maximum speed. Bonan, a lot of people said he doesn't have it. He hasn't got the force anymore, but I saw it yesterday on Tom Bonan when he climbed that climb. He was the best of the big men to get over that climb. Admittedly, he finished a long way back, but look at the gap there that he's got. That's a fairly good beating there of Oscar Freire. It's almost a full bicycle length. And then in third place, you're right, it was Eric Zabel, but where was Robbie McEwen? I think McEwen got caught up in the little bit of turmoil, a little bit.
For him, he's all washed and brushed up now, and the sprinter Tom comes on to get his stage prize. He'll be back to get his green jersey shortly. 10 wins now this year, more than 20 last year, but he started now. He's had a bit of an out period, and he's now coming back onto form. It's taken him a week of the Tour de France to find the podium. He really had hoped he would be carrying yellow in Belgium. That wasn't to be. Cancellara just proving that little bit too quick in the prologue time trial. Mont Blanc, there's no road up there, otherwise the Tour de France would climb that as well, but the Alps are around the riders now. The mountains will embrace the Tour de France until the end of the rest day and Tuesday evening. Well, this is a beautiful, beautiful day if you're not a rider in the Tour de France. If you are a rider, you are going to have a very hot day as you climb up the mountain. That's the finishing line, tranquil at the moment, just the French who are celebrating Bastille Day. These are pictures out on the course here. He's in the peloton. He started. He looks pretty cool. Paul Showing thinks he's fine. We're going to find out in the next 3 or 4 hours. Let's have a look then, Paul, at the overall contenders, the men we think should be in the hot seat today. Andreas Kloden goes out in second. He's injured. 33 off Cancellara's yellow jersey. Leipheimer well poised in 22nd, only a minute behind. So too Denny Menchov. Alejandro Valverde just a minute 03. Sastre at 1:16. Vinokurov, he lost that 1 minute 20 when he crashed. He is 2 minutes 10 back, so he's going to have to find somewhere along the way to make it all up. It's all about the climbing today, Paul, and Sylvain Chavanel goes out in the polka dot jersey.
Well, he goes out in the polka dot jersey. He got his lead in that competition really on what I would term as the flat stages, but Sylvain Chavanel has got 40 points to Philippe Gilbert's 23. William Bonnet there in third at 15 points, but there's a lot more points available today, Phil, and the big climb down towards the end is a first category climb where the riders can get 15 points for going over there in first place. There are lesser climbs on the day. The fourth category climbs will only give you 3, 2 and 1. The third category climb